cut to the chase. Everyone give me some space. Don't fall out, we fall into place. Every step walking with grace, amen. Keeping my foot off the brakes. Impact, I'm ready to brace. We fall down and land on our face. Just to get up and
For decades, the name Leatherman has been synonymous with one word: multi-tool. The treasure trove of tools tucked away into a handle. But recently, Leatherman did something that has the knife world in an uproar. They released a new line of just knives. The Blazer, the Glider, and along with a few others. No pliers, no screwdrivers, just pure American-made folding and fixed blade knives. And the internet has had some strong opinion about this new line of knives. The consensus seems to be that Leatherman has lost its way, that these new line of knives are tone deaf, just a cash grab in the market that they don't understand. But what if I told you that everyone might be wrong about this new lineup that just dropped from Leatherman? What up, YouTube? Marine X back at it again. I'm here to tell you that this might be one of the smartest things that Leatherman has done in a very long time, investing in capital equipment or reverting some of the capital equipment they already have, putting some money into some new stuff. And I think that people might be short-sighted with the decision that Leatherman made. Let's break down why some of the opinions about Leatherman's new lineup might be completely misguided. So what are the main arguments about this new lineup for Leatherman? Well, the internet has been clear on a few key points.
I want to be optimistic, but there really isn't much to be optimistic about when it comes to this release.
I'm like, we gotta pump the brakes here, Leatherman. What is happening? I have a lot of questions and honestly a lot of concerns.
There's some really bad news. There's some things to look forward to. And then there's just some news that you just shake your head and wonder, Leatherman, really? Do we need to come and tell you how to run the company?
First and foremost, the Blazer and the Glider are coming in just around $300. For a company that's known for its utilitarian use of multi-tools, the price tag is a shock to the system for many. The common refrain is that for that kind of money, you can get a top tier knife from a company that only makes knives. Maybe you can get yourself something from Benchmade. I mean, they already have knives. And when you're starting to make comparisons and maybe considering something from Benchmade a budget alternative, then that may say a lot about your new lineup. Or you can get something from another American company, Spyderco, when they are dropping some stuff as well. And they invented the pocket clip. They invented the compression lock. They've done a lot of stuff in the industry. So maybe you just go for something like that. That's a decent argument. But I say this. This is the Daniel Defense PDW 300 Blackout. And to suffice it to say, I could argue that there are a lot of AR style pistols that cost much less than this. This costs over $2,000, no optics. Add an optic on there if you want to go on the cheap end. Well, for this type of weapon, you want something that complements it. So you're spending between maybe $400, maybe even $1,500 on an optic. You could argue to say that there are plenty of companies that can get the job done for much less. But why do you spend that type of money on the Daniel Defense versus spending $1,100 on a competitor that comes with a magazine, comes with an optic? Well, there are several reasons. First off, you may want the reliability. You may like the name, or you just might like the functionality or what comes from an American-made company. Although I know there's a lot of competitors to Leatherman, and especially them stepping into the world of knives, that you may be able to find an alternative. That leads me to the second complaint that I hear the most, specifically the materials. Okay, we got a Magna cut blade for everything. Kudos, clapping it up for that. But then a lot of folks are not the biggest fan of the handle material or the scales being stainless steel. But what if there's more to it than just simply slapping stainless steels on there for cost cutting measures? What if we're not looking at it in a more objective way? In the world of knives, at that price point, you're expecting to see more premium materials like some titanium, or you might want to see some stuff that is made of high quality carbon fiber. To the critics of stainless steel, that feels like cost cutting or corner cutting measures on an otherwise premium product. Although Benchmade has done the same thing with their new water series, but you're still getting a Magna cut blade. A lot of folks just feel like you can get more bang for your buck versus just going with stainless steel. The last complaint, I guess we'll say brand identity. Leatherman at its core is a multi-tool company, and for them to step into the world of the knife, some people don't want to see stuff like that. Some people think that they're going to lose their identity. They should not step into this world. They should just focus on what they do the best. So we have the biggest complaints: the price, the materials, and brand identity. But what if you're not really looking at it deep enough? Well, let me give you a rebuttal. What everyone is missing. This isn't just about a new product line coming from Leatherman. This might be a whole new philosophy for the company themselves. They're called Leatherman, but they're not called Leatherman Multi-Tool Company. That's what they're tagged and correspond with, but it may go beyond that. I own a lot of Leatherman multi-tools. I only have 4 right here, but I also have stuff in all sorts of packs. I love the reliability. I love the warranty, and I'm kind of excited to see where they're going with introducing this new lineup versus immediately having reservations. So let's start off with talking about the price and the materials, because I think they're intrinsically locked together. What if this new patent pending lock system that they have, it needs stainless steel? A lot of people are just simply comparing it to the compression lock that comes from Spyderco, but this new system that's coming from Leatherman is ambidextrous, and they're taking a whole patent out on it. What does that say about this? Are they coming up and they actually coming up with something that the knife world may actually need and everyone doesn't realize it yet? Leatherman developed a brand new patent pending lock design, and they're calling it the compression wedge lock. Now, I can't say if it's incredibly strong. I can't say if it's incredibly secure because I haven't got my hands on the knife yet, but they put R&D into this. They either bought capital equipment or they retooled some stuff that they already had. It's fair to say that those materials and that cost inherently may not always be the same. When we have companies like Boeing or Lockheed or General or GE, or even companies that venture into a lineup like Coast of Portland, they started in the early 1900s on tools and they slowly ventured into the flashlight industry. Whenever you're making those investments, sometimes the first product that you put out may be a higher cost than what others think that it should be. The design seems to be minimalistic. It seems to have a very, very short parts list, and that means that less things to break. If you're allowed to fix it yourself or you take it apart yourself, you may actually be able to service your own knife versus having to send in some complicated locking system to the manufacturer. This is not your standard liner lock or frame lock or even crossbar lock for that matter. The stainless steel handles are an integral part of the robust locking system, and I'm using the word robust because it does look pretty good, at least from the stuff I'm seeing from Gear Junkie, I'm seeing from Blade HQ. It looks like it may have a decent lockup. So the stainless steel might be a very important design spec for that lock to ensure a decent lockup when you're actually using the knife. If this had FRN or if it had G10 or if it had titanium, maybe the lockup wouldn't work correctly. Maybe using titanium or tooling titanium just didn't make sense. We're going to know more about that as we start to get our hands on it for reviewers and folks that are using it in the field. So let's talk about the steel. Magna Cut. So Magna Cut, when we first got our hands on it in 2019, we didn't really understand the hardness level of it. We didn't understand what should be the hardness for a fixed blade versus a pocket folder. And so when they're coming out and they're saying the HRC between 60 and 63, there are a lot of folks who have their panties in a bunch, and understandably I can understand that, because if you get a folding pocket knife that's 60, that might be something that you expect to see from a fixed blade knife. Whereas there are competitors that are giving you pocket knives, stuff that's coming from Kershaw or from Benchmade or even Spyderco themselves, that are getting you 62 to 64 HRC. So people are complaining about that. Now, we don't know about the heat treatment. We don't know about how well it's going to retain, but it's still at the end of the day a super steel, and we really won't know how useful and durable it is until, you test it out. Now, the early reviews of the heat treatment, they're praising it. They like it. I'm seeing some stuff from Best Damn EDC, of course, Blade HQ, as I mentioned earlier. They seem to like the heat treatment itself. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. The only Magna cut that we have so far from Leatherman has been in the ARC. I haven't had any issues with it, but I also don't mainly carry the ARC in my right pocket. I normally carry a knife. Now let's tackle that last argument, brand identity, stay in your lane, Leatherman. For years, the knife on the Leatherman multi-tool has been a point of contention for those knife enthusiasts, which is basically like, ignore it. Don't use it. Absolutely, just stay away from it. And they started to show that they don't want to necessarily always be the company that says stay away from our knife when they came out with the actual ARC and they put Magna Cut inside of that. So they didn't want to just always have a less than perfect tool on their tool set. I think that they take a lot of learning from what they did with the ARC. They've also made a lot of hires and brought those folks out to Oregon. And so when you start to see the moves that they're making with the engineers, I believe, this is just my belief, that we're going to get more out of the Magna Cut than people are speculating, and we really got to get our hands on it to see about that. So stay in your lane. I don't know if I'm 100% on board with that, because if we told companies to stay in their lane, we would not have innovations from some other companies that like to jump ship and to do other stuff all over industry. If we stay in our lane, then we may not have innovations on the flashlight, as I mentioned earlier, with Coast. We may not have innovations with other companies that decide to venture off and to do something else instead of to staying only in one lane, such as Magpul. Magpul made themselves big, honestly, on their actual magazine that goes in their weapons. Now they're doing stuff like butt stocks. They're doing all sorts of accessories. They're super relied upon in the gun community. I don't see an issue with them stepping outside of their lane to expand their capabilities and provide a good product to the American people. So what if these knives are Leatherman's answer to the criticism of the knife that's in their multi-tools? You want a premium knife? Well, here you go. We've dropped an entire lineup, both fixed blade and folders, that you can pick up. If you don't want to get the knife that's in our folders, you have a whole nother good option that you can roll with. I don't see this as an abandonment of their identity. I see this as an evolution. They're taking years, decades of manufacturing prowess, know-how, and just at the end of the day, smarts, and they're pumping out into a new product and a new lineup. And it actually kind of gets grandpa excited. But we got to go beyond the spec sheet. The stuff that I'm seeing from Gear Junkie and Blade HQ, as I mentioned earlier, seems to have me have a lot of optimism about this. I mean, just take a look at this.
One other thing to note about their handles, there are not any hardware or backspacers. So it's basically two handle scales milled out to make it very lightweight. To make this fit this well, they work with very small margins, and it's really well done. There's been quite a lot of talk about why they did not use titanium for the handles. It's of course more expensive and harder to mill, but also they've said to make it this lightweight and this strong, it was best to use steel.
So the initial reviews that we're getting on these things are praising the clean aesthetics. The simple design may actually have to do with making it highly functional. They're talking about the ergonomics. Like, I'm excited to possibly give Leatherman 300 of my hard-earned dollars to test one of these things out. And we're not going to just ignore Leatherman's 25-year warranty. We're not going to ignore that they're not some fly-by-night company that just popped up. They have a God-tier warranty, and they don't warranty the purchaser. If I buy one of these knives and I kick the bucket and one of my sons were to warranty this out, they honor their product. So is everyone wrong about their opinions on the new Leatherman? Well, maybe not, but they may be missing the point. Okay, I understand the initial sticker shock because $300 is a lot of money. And there's a lot of competitors and there's a lot of comparisons that we can just say, go buy one of these, go get one of those, and you will be good to go. We also may be a little bit worried about the simple use of materials, using stainless steel and all that type of stuff. But for years, stainless steels on knife handles was just something that we understood as being reliable. And I don't know why, because we're in the world of the premium knife world, that we can't fall back on something that we know just works. So I think that this is a bold statement from a legendary American company. I think that they're going to be taking this somewhere. You don't retool your shop. You don't come out with a whole new product line if you don't intend to do something with this. And if we're talking about Leatherman, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, that's always good news. So let's not ignore the innovation. Let's not ignore the R&D. that has to be recouped. Let me just ask you a question. Do we really expect a company to sink R&D cost into a product? For instance, Boeing. Boeing is phenomenal at skinning the wing of an aircraft. They have a commercial line, they have a military line. The way they skin a commercial aircraft is completely different the way they skin the wing of an aircraft for the military. They poured R&D into that, and for their overhead, for their G&A costs, for their material costs, for their engineering overhead, for the government contracts that they had for those first few fiscal years after they implemented that and won those contracts, the overhead was higher. But guess what happens? Learning occurs. The price stabilizes. The price may even go down. That could happen here in this case as well. What is learning? Learning is that the people that work for Leatherman, they learn how to make this more efficiently. So it may be on the production line to make a batch of knives. Knives may take 80 hours, but through learning, they reduce that down to 60 hours. And Leatherman can eventually pass that cost savings to us. Will they? I don't know. But I have seen them do discounts on some of their legacy multi-tools. I've oftentimes seen the Leatherman Wave Plus drop down below $100 when it routinely sells at $119. I've seen it go to $96. So before you join the chorus of critics, I want you to just take a close look. The premium Magna Cup blade steel, HRC to be tested, the materials in incorporation with this new patent pendant lock that they have going on. I think that they are trailblazing a path for themselves, even if it's not new for the industry, that some folks might be eating crow about in just a few years. But comment down below, what do you think about this new premium line? Which one should I buy? Because I'm gonna get one of them. I'm gonna go and snatch one of them up. So let me know what your comments down below as well. And are you going to get one? Did you already order one? I would love to know that as well. First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you a part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.